what is it? I mean, there's lots of interior design companies. What makes you different, or what is it that you're trying to, what problem are you trying to solve by doing what you do?
I think, I've looked into this, like, you look for common themes in clients and how to kind of communicate what it is that you do, because, like you say, there are so many different interior design studios. We don't really have one specific style, so it's not aesthetics based. It's more to do with, you live in your home, it doesn't quite work for you, and rather than try and adapt your lifestyle to fit the home that you're in at the moment, it's about, adapting your home to fit your lifestyle. Life is messy. People have children and pets and business and work, whether it's working from home or, coming home after a long day in the office, and your home needs to be that place where you feel at ease and relaxed, and your sanctuary where you can entertain or not, depending on what kind of mood you're in. And it tends to be people who, they know they need to make a change with their environment, but they're not quite sure how to do it or where to start, really. And it's just like I say, we just guide them through and spend a lot of time at the beginning of the process kind of uncovering what it is exactly that they need their home to do for them.
Yeah, that's a really interesting. What do you need your home to do for you, and how do you adapt your home to you, your lifestyle, your needs, right? I want to dig into that, you know, how to change your life by changing your environment after a couple of songs, but because I think that's really important, especially during these times. We'll be back with Jenny after this.
This is Radio
And we're
Bath.
back with Brave Business Conversations. We've got Jenny Quinlan in the studio, founder of Studio JQ. Jenny, tell us about immense change and why it's important for us to look at our environment after we go through a life-changing event.
Well, I think, whether it's a positive life event or a negative life event, I mean, sometimes our clients come to us if sadly they're getting divorced and they're, moving house, or they need their home to feel more homely, or maybe it's a positive event and you're moving into a bigger property. I think your environment really does have a massive impact on your mental well-being, sometimes your physical well-being as well. I mean, clutter is one of the kind of key contributors to stress at home, and you don't want to be feeling that when you're at home. And I think just being more conscious of your surroundings, and that it kind of aligns with how you want to live your life. Sometimes we live in environments that aren't really kind of aligned with our authentic selves, and just having the self-awareness to kind of know what your daily habits are, and how you go about, different routines. If you design your home in a way that kind of encapsulates that, then you won't necessarily notice the good design in that, but you'd certainly notice it if it wasn't aligned with your routines. And I think it's, if you go somewhere and you walk into an environment, it might be a friend's house or a restaurant or a hotel room, and you instantly feel that sort of, your shoulders
Yeah.
kind of drop, and it might not necessarily be aesthetically very beautiful. It might just have this kind of feel to the place, and that's sort of what we're trying to create when we design people's homes. I think it's just, it's more of a feeling than a look,
Yeah.
because you can have a beautifully designed interior, but perhaps you feel quite uncomfortable in it. It might be quite clinical or sterile, not
Yeah.
really kind of suited to you, and vice versa as well. Some of our clients like the kind of minimalist, neat and tidy, clean lines, and anything other than that would kind of put them on edge. So I think, self-awareness is key, really, with your environment, and it does have a massive impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if it's your first home, right? You kind of like, oh, I want the thing that looks like this in the catalog. And then when you actually have it, it's like, oh, it's a bit empty, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I walk into a lot of people's home. It looks like a catalog, but I wouldn't feel, I like it, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to live in it,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Our house, we've got stuff. We've got like family stuff. We've got mess stuff, but it kind of works, and we're comfortable entertaining people, even though our home doesn't look like it comes out of catalog, but everything works, and everything, people say it feels warm.
Yeah.
It feels us, because we're not perfect, we're a bit messy, But let's talk about clutter. What is the psychology that leads people to clutter their homes, or is it just inherited things, and what is the effect of decluttering in your experience?
I think there's many different paths to clutter. Either, some people have real trouble getting rid of things, whether it's throwing them away or passing them on or taking them to charity. Other people, like you say, inherit things, and there's a sentimentality there that they feel guilty about getting rid of things that might not be useful to them anymore, but they just cannot, let go of that item. And we put a lot of value in physical things. And yeah, the end result generally is when you've got too much stuff, it just becomes overwhelming to the point where you can't actually think about it in a logical way. And I think it's a kind of vicious cycle to get stuck into. Or, particularly people who have maybe just bought their first home and they have no furniture, they go out and buy a sofa and a chair and a bed and side tables and all those kind of individual items that you might need with your first starter home. And then as they kind of go along and they think, oh, well, we'll replace it with something we like better when we've got a bit more money, and it generally doesn't tend to happen that way. You just accumulate more and don't necessarily get rid of the stuff that,
So do you think people should buy slowly when they move in?
Yeah.
And then it's just like put boxes and everything where you need a side table until you find that side table that you want? Or how does that work?
I think it's more about having clarity about what you actually want. So rather than just thinking, I need a side table, well, what type of side table? You don't have to spend a fortune to find an amazing item. eBay or Gumtree or all those kind of places that you can go. Antique shops are fantastic for hunting down bargains.
Yeah, they're so cheap.
And really well made as well. That's that's why they've lasted so long, because they're beautifully crafted items and they've got character to them as well. I mean, we always try and include antiques, even in contemporary projects that we're working on. There will be a couple of antique pieces in there that we found, in some treasure trove or some inherited piece that we've just repurposed in a different way. And I think it's just, if you know what you're trying to achieve, you have to know your end result first and then kind of work backwards from that. And it just makes things so much easier rather than just, going around and doing a big shop.
Yeah. Well, how do you get rid of sentimental things? Or maybe they just hire a storage space or something. I mean, because for people who love who feel guilty getting rid of clutter, and they do have meaning to it, and maybe the kids aren't big enough for them to hand things over. What's your recommendation to declutter yourself?
Well, I mean, there's that famous book, The KonMari Method, which I read years ago, and some of the principles in that are, I think, spot on. I mean, Marie Kondo describes this kind of routine where she blocks out different categories in the home, whether it's clothing or books or furniture or sentimental items, and she always leaves the sentimental stuff to the very end of the process, and you just go through and decide whether that item sparks joy for you. And not necessarily the way we would do it or I would do it at home, but I think just being honest with yourself and letting yourself go of the guilt, because that item of furniture or accessory or whatever it might be that maybe you've inherited or somebody gifted you, and you feel bad for letting it go, they probably haven't thought about it, or it doesn't even enter their mind, or somebody else could benefit from that item if you sent it to the charity shop or sold it, or you don't have to hold on to that guilt. And I think that the psychology around our homes is always something that's really fascinated me, whether it is guilt from holding on to possessions, or how dramatically it can have a negative or positive impact on you. Yeah.
And sometimes if you collect clutter from the past, then suddenly all your mantelpiece or your shelves are filled with old pictures or perhaps dead people, right? But you don't have any more space for the people who are alive and perhaps new additions to your family, like babies, in-laws, well, depends if you like your in-laws, I guess. But I mean, if your kids got married, I mean, I think a picture of them and their husband or wife should be there, instead of pictures of parents and, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's also, you're right, like, what are we trying to create? I remember doing a bit of decluttering, And it was like, with all due respect, these are beautiful pictures of old people, and they've all gone and died and everything, and they're fantastic. But I remember that this particular family has beautiful, the cutest children ever, the cutest babies you'll ever see in your life. There's no space for them. And then so we renovated the downstairs toilet to just pluck out the older pictures and then put in a collage of baby pictures with the family with the babies and all the kids with the babies and everything like that, and they were just lovely. And then when you walk into that toilet, I mean, it's just a toilet, right? You smile, and people are in there for ages because I'm like, they're looking at pictures. But then they always come out and say, oh, those are beautiful pictures. We never had those comments before when it was just like pictures of dead people, you know. So yeah, it became from a somber feel to more of a, wow, this is life, you know.
And it's the journey, you know. Your home is, you know, you build it through the story of, you know, whether it is you've collected that piece when you were sailing, or, you know, you were abroad, or when you were younger, or, you know, maybe it's the first item that you spent a considerable amount of money on. And there's all different reasons why we kind of hold on to things and have them in our homes. But I think that the one point that I kind of try and bring clients back to is it's your environment and your space. And yes, it's nice to design, you know, maybe a lounge or a dining space where you can host guests or have family and think about the other people that come into your home. But at the end of the day, you're the one that lives there, and you have to design it for yourself. You know, unless you've got the space to hold on to a guest bedroom that nobody ever goes in, maybe you have guests twice a year, then why not repurpose that room for a hobby or something else? It's just, I think just going back again to designing your home to kind of suit your lifestyle.
Interesting. And for some of us, we need to rediscover our lifestyle, because our lifestyle has been for the kids and for whatever. When they leave, it's like, who are we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'll be back with Jenny after this with more tips on how to change your environment to have a bit of change in your life.